On Westcott Radio. This guy knows more about our next band than anyone else in this room, except maybe even some of the guys in the band themselves. Please welcome Carl Caffarelli.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening, everybody. Oddities of the world. That seems appropriate. I want to give you a little bit of context for something that seemed really, really odd in Syracuse in 1977, and that was our next honorees, Syracuse's own power pop powerhouse, the Flash Cubes. This is your context. Times change. Things change. Years ago, after an early Flash Cubes gig, a club owner said he wasn't going to pay the band because whatever it was they had played, he didn't think it was actual music. In the late 70s, even as the Cubes were gaining followers, there were a lot of people around town who hated the Flash Cubes. Or worse, thought that the Flash Cubes were a joke. Well, tonight the joke's on them. Tonight we induct the Flash Cubes into the Syracuse Music Hall of Fame. I have 3 all-time favorite bands. The Beatles, the Ramones, and the Flash Cubes. You all know the Beatles. You probably know the Ramones. Well, I was just as hooked on the Flash Cubes. They were energetic, cocky, irresistible. Everything I ever thought a rock and roll band could be. And they were from Syracuse. The first time I saw the Flash Cubes play, they became one of my favorite bands in an instant. Bam, right then and there. And nothing has ever changed that. The Flash Cubes began in 1977, a power pop band inspired by punk rock, but also influenced by the Raspberries, Badfinger, the Beatles, and the Kinks. They were 4 separate forces combined as one. Bassist Gary Frenet was a pop guy, through and through. Guitarist Paul Armstrong was pure rock and roll, a punk, since way before Sid Vicious ever saw his first safety pin. Guitarist Artie Lennon was a 6-string wizard, a kindred spirit to the artier bands you heard only on the fringes. And drummer Tommy Allen, he was all of the above, a Partridge Family fan who played like Keith Moon. Together, the Flash Cubes were the Bomb magazine ideal of Sean Cassidy plus the Sex Pistols, equals the power pop sound of the early Who. They wrote lots of original songs that lived up to their influences, and they put on a live show like no one else could. The Flash Cubes' original career was brief. First gig was September 1st, 1977 at the Brookside, opening with a supercharged cover of Hold Me Tight by the Beatles. They did shows with The Jam, with the Ramones and the Runaways, the Police, the Romantics, Joe Jackson. They played in Buffalo, Detroit, Boston, New York, everywhere. Gerber music. They released 2 singles, Christy Girl and Wait Till Next Week, on their own label, Northside Records. And a major label deal seemed certain it was going to happen, for sure. In late 1978, before a show at SU, the announcer promised, one day, very soon from now, you people are going to be able to say, I saw this band before they were famous. And then, they didn't become famous. Paul Armstrong was replaced by Mick Walker in 1979, and the Flash Cubes broke up in 1980. Not famous, not likely to be remembered, but oddly enough, destined to become legendary. Legendary? Strange but true. During their long hiatus from 1980 to about 1992, an international mystique grew around this obscure band from Syracuse, and somehow, through cassette tapes traded hand to hand, magazine articles, word of mouth, and the sheer growing devotion of people who just knew, the Flash Cubes became known as the Great Lost Power Pop Band. Rhino Records included Christy Girl on a power pop anthology CD in 1993. And the Flash Cubes reunited. Gary, Artie, Paul, and Tommy together again. They've been together ever since. And each live show still earns them new fans every time in every place. The Flash Cubes even get called back for encores when they play at IPO, the International Pop Overthrow Pop Music Festivals, and no one gets an encore at IPO. Flash Cubes have now released 6 CDs, including a live album from their first Japanese tour. Japanese tour? Yep, Flash Cubes have toured Japan twice now, playing for enthusiastic audiences that sing right along Because the Japanese fans know every Flash Cube song. The Flash Cube's most recent album, Sport and Wood, won the Sammy last year for Best Rock Album. So I guess that club owner, you remember him? The one who didn't want to pay these guys because they didn't play actual music? I guess he was just another part of a familiar story. In 1962, the Beatles were told the guitar groups were on the way out. In 1976, a radio DJ ripped the Ramones' first album off the turntable and threw it across the studio, yelling, "What is this? We don't need this." And the Flash Cubes were dismissed because they didn't play actual music. That all seems funny now, quaint, and on the wrong side of history. Times change. Things change. Because in 1962, guitar groups were just getting started. Because in 1976, pop music was in dire need of a 3-chord punk rock jolt.